Hey Lulit, how you doing?
Hi Nate, how are you?
I'm good. I'm just living out my summer, getting ready before college.
Uh-huh. You
Just
only have
getting
15 minutes for us today?
yeah, I have a 5:30 phone call that I have to get ready for. That's why.
Oh, okay. Thank you for penciling me into your busy schedule.
No problem. How have you been? How's UMD?
UMD is great. I'm doing good. I'm working for the Youth Activism Project now.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Good.
Okay. So we'll just get into it since you don't have that much time. So you just finished your term as SMOB.
Hmm.
Tell me a little bit about that. I just want to know a little bit about what being SMOB is, like delineate your work and what it means.
Yeah, I probably say to sum it up, it's probably the most insane internship or experience that an 18-year-old can get. So as SMOB, I was a full voting member of our school board, and we're the 14th largest school district in the nation. And so I voted on our $2.8 billion operating budget and made changes to that. Our capital budget, which is 1.7 billion, union contract negotiations, and the unions represent over 24,000 workers. Um, Obviously, our transition from normal schooling to a pandemic, major boundary decisions and policy changes. I was basically in the back doors of every conversation that this district had, and I had a true voice as the student member to echo and voice anything and everything that I had on my mind, anything and everything that students were bringing up to me, and so I did. And it was definitely an experience like no other because um, it's real, it's raw, it's numbers, it's data, it's stuff that you know. If I wanted, you'd have to run and get elected to this seat. The election process, we probably say that for another conversation, but that's probably uh, the first part to the most difficult journey of being a student board member. And as I was there, I did as much as possible, right? And a few things that I got done. So I got a $500,000 budget amendment for more counselors in our schools. I pushed for Eid al-Fitr and the Chinese Lunar New Year to be in our school calendar. Started the process on driver's ed. Worked to dismantle the school to prison pipeline, and now the district's looking into our school police officers and our the over discipline of Black students. Um, have worked just to eliminate socioeconomic disparities in schools, and some of that could be seen through the push for driver's education, for uh, more funding towards our Title I schools and our highly impacted schools, making sure that we retain and get more diverse teachers, more Black teachers in specific, and Hispanic teachers, um, just anything and everything. And from the top to bottom, I was in all those conversations. I brought up my concerns, brought up my ideas, and that was that's the summary of what I had to do as being a student board member.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah,
So like
and I had to be a student.
aside, yeah, like that's what I was going to ask. Aside from administrative work and stuff like that, how much did your job demand of you to interact with students?
Yeah,
And how much did it demand of you to like balance between work and school and things like that? Like how did it work?
yeah. The demand to I was basically talking to students any minute that I was not focused on schoolwork, um, and I really pushed aside. I had to sacrifice a lot of things. So that's friend time, family time. I had a job throughout all of this as well, so money time as
Oh,
well. Yeah, it was an insane year, and so basically, I was probably working. Uh, I mean, easily more than 40 hours a week. I just don't know because my calendar was packed. And I'd have some days where I'm starting at 9 a.m. and not finishing until like 10 p.m., stuff like that, solely on Board of Education work. And, I visited all of our schools, including the campaign twice. That's 66 schools, twice, so 120 schools, block out a few lunch periods. I crammed them multiple times a day. Um, I had a half day schedule, so that helped out with balancing all of that. But It's a lot because I also utilize social media as much as possible to talk to students because it's an easy way to not have to block out an hour and a half or 2 hours of your day, just straight
Yeah.
DMing kids, just emailing them. I also emailed every student. Thankfully, I was able to do that as a board member, and so updates, stuff like that got sent out right into the inboxes of all 86,000 students, secondary students.
Wow. And you probably had to rely on that a lot more because of COVID, right?
Yeah. Second
Yeah.
part for sure.
Okay. So you talked a little bit about the boundary analysis, and I know around the time that I graduated, the boundary study was in like its early stages. And I
Yeah,
just want to know kind of because one of our big campaigns that we do at YAP is education justice. We're part of like a national collective, basically with a bunch of different organizations that help teens build campaigns fighting for education justice. So I just want to know what kind of progress is made with the boundary study during your term.
yeah. So I probably be better to lay it out. How the past few snobs, including myself, contributed to this effort. So I probably say so. First, definitely started with Matt Post when he tried proposing policy changes to policy FAA that would weigh demographics as a slightly heavier factor when drawing school boundaries. And this is important because we have over 200 facilities. When there's an addition, you redraw boundaries. When you build a new school, you redraw boundaries. So this was an important policy. So he pushed for that as much as possible, but the board at the time was different and didn't cave in to, or not cave in, but didn't pass Matt's proposal and resolution. And so then came Ananya's term, and Ananya got that done, where she got the policy change done and launched a boundary analysis that would basically look at all four factors of our boundaries, our facilities and operations, our capacity of our schools. And so that's a big thing that got started. Ananya, as I mentioned, she got policy FAA amended. And so this is a big thing because during my term, I have two major boundary decisions. And so basically, Ananya is the launch pad to this, or Matt's the launch pad, gets the conversation going, Ananya executes, and then I have to sort of make sure it happens in actual terms to what we hope to have done. So here comes Seneca Valley boundary decision that affects Clarksburg High School and Northwest High School, and then the middle school boundary decisions. So all in all, this is affecting, I'd probably say, around 10,000 students, 10,000 plus students, right? Just two simple boundary decisions. And this was major because this tested the policy decision that Anani got passed at the board table. And so I was really the voice at the board table to make sure that we pushed on the superintendent to propose his main factor in the boundary decision factors as a higher weight on evening out farms among schools. And keep in mind, these are local schools. Nobody's talking about busing kids, 30 miles or
Yeah.
something. And so I did, right? I spent hours and hours on the phone with my colleagues, pushing them to really go for this decision, despite the hundreds of people who were protesting to keep their kids in that school that they moved to. But the harsh reality is that our county is growing, and that you can't overpopulate a school when there's another school right next to you that's underpopulated.
Right.
And so, really, it's making sure that what Ananya got passed in policy was actually done in real terms. And so that's what I did, right? It's the boundary analysis was going on throughout my term. There was nothing that I could really do because it's the contractors that are looking into, that are gathering the data, the policy, doing the community meetings. And so that wasn't really something that I focused on. That's something that Nick will have to focus on because the data will come back. But basically, my term was making sure that everything in the policy changes was actually put in real terms. And so that's, as we will see, Seneca Valley High School next year, the way that it's populated is based off of this boundary decision that we voted on as a board. And that's a hard thing, right? The first step has to be done, the second step has to be done, and the third step for it all to be successful. Now I hope Nick could keep on pushing to finish out the work that we all started.
So the data from the analysis isn't like out
There
yet.
was there was preliminary data, and then now I think they're in the final stage of community outreach. We had to push back the boundary analysis the final report because of COVID. This was when the pandemic happened, and they couldn't. The final part was community outreach, and so preliminary data is already out, and it obviously it shows us what we've already known, and that's that our schools are segregated socioeconomically and racially.
Right. And I'm just curious as to how you were doing this and implemented the opinions of community members, teachers, parents, students, things like that, because there's a lot of opinionated people within MoCo, obviously.
For sure. And you can differentiate those voices from the back. The ones that are there to poke you and the ones that are there to give you real responses and comments. And basically, in real terms, all I had, my only constituents are students. I don't have to respond to parents. I don't have to respond to teachers, principals. I listen to everyone though. But I went out into schools and I asked students, I literally walked their hallways. I messaged them. I posted on social media with updates, gathered feedback through email. I literally said, what are your thoughts on this? For Seneca Valley's boundary decision, which was major, keep in mind, this is a major cluster. Basically I held a town hall at Seneca Valley High School. I literally walked the halls and passed out probably thousands of flyers, sent out emails to all the students. I got as much feedback as possible. And I think it's probably the best way to do it, the way that I got it done. Heard from hundreds of students. And, once people understand the true issue, once they see past the opinionated comments and posts, and once they, it's like the whole SRO issue right now. People can like their SROs, and SROs are good people, but until you see the data, you think they're great. But what happens in the back door when you're not in the classroom, when there's an SRO who pins a kid against a corner wall that you don't see, or when they break up a fight and arrest the student instead of discipline them through MCPS, right? It's the stuff that you don't see that was there. And so losing my train of thought, but I made that analogy to connect it to the boundary analysis.
And how you implemented student response. Okay. Okay, so backtracking a little bit, since you have to go soon, I'm pretty sure. Well, one question I was curious about was, how responsive do you think the Board of Education is to student concerns? I just wanted to know if they kind of put it on you, or if that's most of what your role is.
Well, so I'm not on the board anymore, but when I was there, I am the student voice.
Yeah.
Right. And there's no way, I'm not elected by student government or by 5 kids or general assemblies. It's all students, and so I'm actually representative of that voice, and through the whole electoral process. And they wouldn't put it on me because I'd invite them to events. I'd bring them out. I'd say at a town hall that I'm having, I'd bring 2 board members, and then at another town hall, I'd bring 2 board members. I'd show them the emails, the responses. Students would come and testify. But for sure, without a doubt, you are the student voice for all 166,000 students. It's a big task. So, that's your job, right? You signed up and ran for that. They're responsive. They actually love student voice. So, students wanted to voice their issues on the boundary analysis, on school desegregation or student discipline or curriculum, anything like that. And you sent an email to one of these board members or a letter or testified, they actually listen. They hear the student board member's voice all the time. They don't hear normal students enough.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's answer Anika's question. How can students from other districts who don't have a voting SMOB advocate for one?
Yeah, so there's a few steps, and people have to keep in mind that we haven't had, I was the 42nd SMOB. Now there's a 43rd SMOB. It was the 39th SMOB that had full voting rights, right? 39 years passed until he got full voting rights. He had a partial vote, and so basically what you hope to do is have the board create policy on a student election that actually has all students voting. Then you push on your General Assembly, the state legislature to have, it's basically within the state's power to create a full voting student board member. Eric Gersey, when he was SMOB, lobbied for this like crazy, same with the other SMOBs before him, and then they finally got it done. They built relationships with state legislators and etc. to get it done. And it's the state legislature that voted on it and created a bill to have the student board member have full voting rights.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You go ahead.
I was just going to say some districts have, Anne Arundel County has full voting rights. The state student board member has full voting rights. Baltimore and Prince George's have partial voting rights, etc. So, for example, Baltimore and Prince George's are in the effort right now to have full voting rights. There you go.
Okay. So how would you, let's say one of your constituents asked you, like they want to get into civic engagement, policy advocacy, but don't know how, don't know where to start. How would you advise them?
Sure. And this has to be the last question because
yeah.
But
okay.
If a student wanted to be engaged civically in policy, I'd say that there are a few forums right now that'll help you get that done. There's the countywide student government, there's the Minority Scholars Program, there's MoCo for Change, there's UACT Project, and basically what you'd have to do is, connect with these organizations, these established organizations, and usually their leaders already have avenues for you to create for you to be civically engaged. So for the county student government, they are connected within MCPS, so they keep you in the loop of policy decisions being made, opportunities to testify so you can testify, and forums that you'll have the opportunity to connect with school board members and district administration. And same with MoCo for Change, where they organize typically from the outside, so protests, email campaigns, social media campaigns, etc.
Yeah, there's a lot to do.
Yeah,
a lot of ways to get involved.
Yep.
Thank you for plugging us. Okay, so you have to go now?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. You're going to Cornell, right?
Yes, school in Ithaca.
Congratulations. I think we all know what Cornell is. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All the best wishes.
Yeah. I hope we can keep in touch.
We will.
Yeah.
Good luck on your call.
See you soon. Thank you.
Okay, guys, unfortunately, Nate had to leave a little bit early, but I'm just going to take this time to tell you guys a little bit about an opportunity that we have. Starting Sunday, it is a training series, 6-week-long training series. We are partnering with Youth Creating Change to create a 6-week-long series, 2 hours a week on Sundays, basically about how to build a student-led movement from the ground up. It is from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 to 2 Pacific, and 1 to 3 Central Time. It is completely free, and it is a really, really great once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Our registration link is in our bio, so please feel free to learn a little bit more about it through that. The first module is this Sunday, like I said, and our graphic is on our page, so if you want to spread it to any high school activists, teen activists, or aspiring activists who you think would be interested, that would be great. We already have a bunch of signups from all over the country, so we're really excited to start, and it's a really great opportunity. So I encourage you guys to take a look at that. Like I said, the link is in our bio. So yeah. Thank you guys for joining. See you next week.